All right, what's up, everybody? How we feeling? Happy Monday, happy President's Day. I hope everybody's having a good day. Let's make sure this audio is working because apparently there was an issue last time. So, what's everybody up to? How are we doing? Let me know if you can hear the audio because apparently it was crashing out earlier. But I want to make sure it's working. I don't know what's going on. Okay, you guys can hear me. Finally, had some technical difficulties setting up and a couple other issues going on before we started stream, but we're good. How are we doing? There's a lot of rumors going on, not a lot of solid news, but there was a few little bit of news updates over the last couple of days, but wasn't home to go live. So we're going to talk about some of those things today. And of course the rumors, because it is the off season and rumors run rampant. Sometimes I just don't feel like posting rumors, but we got to talk about it, right? At least. So here we go. Let's talk about it. Of course, the first story we'll talk about over the last couple of days, the 49ers over the weekend actually hired a new defensive backs coach. This was kind of a little shocking news update because Saturday on the offseason, not a lot happens, but the 49ers did hire Boston College's secondary coach Ray Brown as their new cornerback coach. If you remember, before there was a lot of rumors as to who's going to be joining Robert Saleh's coaching staff. There was a D'Angelo Hall update a few weeks ago where they said he was possibly going to be on the coaching staff, and he was a DB coach with the Panthers, but it looks like they might have went a different direction. I don't know if D'Angelo Hall will still be on this coaching staff, but appears that they have hired Ray Brown from Boston College. He's had a lot of years of coaching experience in college, so we'll see. Maybe it's a guy that Robert Saleh feels could help him, add another extra wrinkle to his defense. Again, we'll see. Maybe he can help him scout some guys from college because he's been in the college ranks for several years. So that was that. And it feels like the 49ers are really trying to hone down this coaching staff. And, speaking of coaching staffs, the 49ers assistant head coach on the defensive side, Brandon Staley, he interviewed this weekend for the Saints defensive coordinator job. We know that Kellen Moore took their head coaching job, and now he's trying to, fill out his coaching staff. He's the last coach that was hired in the coaching cycle this year in the new season, 2025. And it appears that Brandon Staley's one of those guys that might be taken to coach with the New Orleans Saints. So, he's a former defensive guy. He's a former defensive coordinator. So Brandon Staley looks like his time is apparently going to be gone with the 49ers, whether he gets hired or not from the Saints. I don't know if he's going to get hired and take the defensive coordinator job, but it does seem like the 49ers are going to move on from Brandon Staley. This was reported a few weeks ago from Matt Mayoko that he does not believe that the 49ers are going to keep Brandon Staley. So whether he gets the job with the Saints, I think his time in the Bay is pretty much over. But, 49ers making moves. They're staying busy. They still haven't announced their official, coaching hires. I think they're still trying to put some loose ends there, here and there. But I think in the next coming weeks, they would at least announce their full coaching staff hires because they usually do that. They usually have a big announcement on their social media pages of saying, these are your new 2025 coaches and et cetera, et cetera. Some people might get, promoted and things like that, but there's still some other people getting interviewed. So Brandon Staley's still getting interviewed, right? And then there's also Josh Williams, who's the director of scouting and personnel. He's being interviewed for the Jaguars GM job. He's actually one of 5 finalists to be the Jaguars GM. So I feel like the 49ers, they're still having internal people within their organization looking to get interviewed. So the coaching searches are still not done around the league, especially with the Saints just hiring Kellen Moore recently. So I feel like in the coming days or weeks, we'll probably get a full announcement of all the coaches because they haven't really made an official announcement on, who is who's where, did Brandon Staley leave? Did they promote this guy? I know we've gotten all the reports in here and there, but we haven't got a full official breaking announcement from the team. So I expect that soon. And the combine is coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I would expect all this stuff to be done by the NFL combine, which is what I believe almost a week or so away. So I think by that point, we should have a little bit more clarity because you'd want your whole coaching staff to be sorted out when you're going to do scouting. So we shall hear. What did you miss? You didn't miss anything, Justin. We're just getting started. We just talked about the 49ers hiring a new DB coach, Ray Brown, and they're still kind of working through making their final touches. And it appears that Brandon Staley was interviewed to be the defensive coordinator for the Saints. We don't know if he's going to get the job or not, but I'm sure an announcement will come within the next couple of days for that. So Moore was Chargers offensive coordinator when Staley was the head coach, says Ryan McDonald. It does make sense that he's going to bring Staley on his roster because they know each other. There's familiarity. I feel like that's probably going to happen. But again, we don't know. There were other candidates. We'll see how it goes. But I feel like, hey, it's the homie hookup. That's my guy when we were with the Chargers. Now I'm going to give him the opportunity with my own team, with Kellen Moore. So we'll see. Again, there was not a lot of news, but that was one of the news updates from the weekend. So real quick to recap, 49ers are hiring Boston College's secondary coach Ray Brown as the cornerbacks coach. I know a couple of weeks ago they said they were interviewing D'Angelo Hall, so maybe they took Ray Brown over D'Angelo Hall. It appears that the 49ers director of scouting and football operations, Josh Williams, has been named one of 5 finalists for the Jaguars GM job. Now, if Josh does take this job, 49ers would get 2 compensatory draft picks. So I'm rooting for him. If we get him, you get some. If the Jaguars take him, that's amazing for him. It's a good opportunity. And the 49ers get a little bit of compensation. Now, if they lose him, if they lose Josh Williams, and they got to find a new director of scouting and football operations. So that's the only downfall of this. Yes, you'd get draft picks, but, now you got to find a new director of scouting. So I don't know. It's a tough situation now. And I think that's another reason why the 49ers may not have finished their, coaching search and whatnot, because they're probably interviewing people in the process just in case, Williams gets promoted to the GM of the Jaguars, or they might be doing a internal discussion within their team. There's also coaches in their staff or front office members in their staff that might get promoted to the director of scouting and football operations. So we'll see. And then, of course, Brandon Staley was interviewing for the defensive coordinator job this weekend, according to Albert Breer. That was yesterday on Sunday. So we'll probably get a decision very quickly. And some news that happened over the, last couple of days. Also, it appears that Raheem Mostert was cut from the Dolphins. It was a mutual decision. They're releasing him. And a lot of people are speculating if Raheem Mostert will be back with the Niners. They need depth. It's a guy that, knows familiarity. 49ers could always use a guy like Raheem Mostert to add some depth behind McCaffrey and everybody, just in case there's injuries. I don't think that's a bad idea to get Raheem Mostert, although I think he's one of those guys that still thinks he could get max value in a contract somewhere. So I wouldn't be certain if he comes back, but he's one of those guys where in the middle of the season, if he isn't signed or whatever, the 49ers could add him to the roster and they'll keep him like on the practice squad and then call him up. I feel like that's one of those moves. He's like an old Niner that they can bring back. Remember they did that with several guys throughout. I think Matt Breida is one of those guys they brought back in the offseason and then they didn't keep him around. But I think Raheem Mostert wants an opportunity to actually play. I don't know if he'd get much opportunity with the 49ers. So that's why I don't think he would actually return to the Niners. Since he left because there was money, he wanted more opportunity. He went to the Dolphins, became a starter, et cetera, et cetera. And I think he's leaving the Dolphins to go get more money somewhere. I don't think the Niners are going to throw a lot of money at Raheem Mostert, especially when they let him go a couple years ago. So I love Raheem, great guy, but his injury history is not the best. And the 49ers need players that can stay healthy. So I know that was one of the talks over the weekend, but I just don't see it happening overall. I just don't see Raheem Mostert coming back. Now, another guy that was rumored, again, there's a lot of rumors this weekend. There's a lot of rumors this weekend. And one of the things that went down, actually, I posted this on my Instagram with Football Forever. We do a lot of collab posts. And there was a report that said Joey Bosa's future in Los Angeles is uncertain. There's a possibility he could team up with his brother Nick Bosa on the 49ers. And it says San Francisco could potentially acquire Bosa in a trade or in free agency if he's released. There's been a lot of talk saying that the Chargers might release Bosa or they'll want to trade him because, he's getting older. He's got the injury. He has a huge contract. Maybe the Chargers want to move from him and get younger. And, of course, the 49ers are linked to Joey Bosa because his brother is on the team. Why not? Why wouldn't he be linked to the 49ers, right? You got Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, the Dream, the Bosa Bros. Like, it's been something that has been talked about probably every offseason. This is a topic every single year. And, of course, this year's no different. The 49ers are linked to Joey Bosa. Now, his mother, or their mother, Cheryl Bosa, she commented on her Instagram story, like, shocked face. She was like, throw the shocked emoji. So that gives people, a lot of hype. She said this last year when the same rumor was thrown around. She wants to see the Bosa brothers obviously play together. It would be amazing for her as a mother of two NFL stud defensive ends to be on the same team. So of course, Mama Bosa was hyped up and says this got to happen, and it gives a little bit more hype to the story. This happened last year too. I mean, again, I don't know if 49ers are going to try to pursue Bosa because he's older, but I mean, I think it would be something that if it happened, the fans would be juiced up. It'd be a cool story. But Joey Bosa is kind of, a little bit older. He's got some injuries. He's got a lot of money due. So he'd have to take a big, money dump salary wise. Because again, the 49ers are trying to get Brock Purdy extended this offseason. They have George Kittle contract. So I don't know if they're going to be able to sign like a premium contract guy unless they make some changes. I know they're trying to get rid of Hargrave. I know they're trying to get rid of Deebo. So they're going to mix some of that money up and potentially get it back with, whatever they're going to have to do and restructures. I'm sure they're going to do as they always do off season. But I don't know if Joey Bosa makes sense just because they want to get a young guy and a guy that Joey Bosa's age now. They did last year with Leonard Floyd. They got the older veteran. So I think they're trying to get younger. And I think a guy like Myles Garrett probably makes more sense. He's still in the peak of his career. But then the numbers for Myles Garrett in terms of signing him would be through the roof. And I'm sure he's going to want to become the highest paid defensive player in the league if he goes to a new team and get the new contract. And again, acquiring a guy like Myles Garrett would be just astronomical. I just don't think the Cleveland Browns would take the first round pick the 49ers have and Deebo. I think they'd want a little bit more. But again, you never know. Things are crazy. If it gets to a point where it's like a stalemate and the player's pissed off and you just got to get rid of them, then maybe you just take whatever best opportunity you get. So there's a lot of rumors going around and a lot of hypotheticals, but it just really depends on numbers, if it makes sense for both teams, what you can give in compensation. But again, that was a rumor. All those things were rumors over the week. Nick Bosa and Joey. There was the Raheem Mostert. There's Myles Garrett, smoke coming around. And then there's Maxx Crosby. He was here on the Bay over the weekend. It was All-Star Weekend, and he talked about how much he loves the Bay and the fans and his experience. And of course, he played for the Raiders. So I took it as well. He likes the Bay Area fans because he remembers them from his time with the Oakland. But of course, Niner fans went absolutely buck wild on Twitter when they saw his tweet. And at last part of Maxx Crosby's tweet, he says, "To everybody I encountered out there," he goes, "the town will forever hold a special place in my heart." Of course, he played, remember, with the Oakland Raiders. He goes, "I love you all. We will be back again soon." And shout out Jumpman23, Michael Jordan. So he says, "We will be back again soon to the Bay." So he's going to plan a visit out here. But a lot of people took it as, oh, he's coming back soon to the Bay. Maxx Crosby, Niners. And a lot of people are making up rumors saying that he's linked to the Niners, where, I don't know. It's just what people want to hear. It's what people wish. I think we all would love to have Maxx Crosby and, Nick Bosa on the same defensive line. But again, money, how much draft capital can you give up to get a Maxx Crosby? I just don't think it makes sense in the Niners, situation. I think, of course, it makes sense in, oh my God, go get Myles Garrett and Nick Bosa, or go get Maxx Crosby and Nick Bosa, pair them up. It'd be a monster, monster mash. But money and the draft picks, and I just don't ever think that the Raiders would trade to the Niners. But crazier things have happened in the NFL. But again, that is one of the big rumors going out there, and everybody's just going hog wild, especially Niner fans. When they saw this tweet, I remember this when I woke up this morning. I mean, everybody in the comments was like, "Make it happen, John Lynch." Oh my God. So of course you gotta talk about it. If you're dealing with Niner content, you gotta at least entertain it. We'd all love to see Maxx Crosby, in red and gold. And I think he wants to go to a winning team. Now, I know he loves the Raiders franchise. They gave him an opportunity. They gave him the chance. He's, worked his way from nothing, and he had a crazy past, with the addiction and everything. And the Raiders, believed in him, and he became a superstar. So I know he holds the Raiders to his heart, close to his heart, but at the same time, he wants to play for a winning team. And I don't know if the Raiders are going to be that for a couple of years, especially in that crazy division. And AFC West is a tough division, and I don't know if the Raiders are going to be able to win now. Does he want to lose 2-3 years of his prime to play for a non-winning team? So I don't think he wants to be there in that sense, but he wants to be there because he loves the fans. He loves the team. He loves the culture. He loves the franchise. but it is different now that they're in Vegas compared to Oakland. And I think that's what he was expressing in his tweet, that, he loved the Bay Area. Like, oh my God, being back this weekend, he just remembers all those memories he had when he was with Oakland. I think just flooded him this weekend. So it was cool to see everybody hyped up and everybody's gassed up over Maxx Crosby. So, yeah, and I know he has the Raiders tatted on him. He's a very loyal guy. That's the thing. When I saw this, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to post this, because that's what we do here on social media. We got to post it and entertain it. But I was like, it's going to go crazy. Everybody's going to go hyped up. And oh my God, Maxx Crosby. But he has the Raiders tattooed on him. So he's a loyal guy. But at the same time, doesn't mean that he can't go to another team just because he has the team tatted on him. He can say, hey, this was a chapter in my life where, I was with the Raiders. And then you move on to the next chapter. So I think that's one way he can say, hey, look, yeah, I know I have the Raiders tatted on me, but that was a chapter, moved on from that chapter. It's business. He's got to look out for himself and, winning a championship and going to that best opportunity. So, I think that's one way he's got to look at it. But he definitely is a loyal guy, and he loves the Raiders franchise. So let's see. Hey, John, can you make it happen? TB12 could make that trade happen, says Rob. Yeah, Tom Brady, would he want to help out the Niners? His boyhood team? I don't think so. The Niners could have had Tom Brady, and Kyle Shanahan passed on him. Maybe he's salty. Maybe he's like, F that. They wouldn't help me. I'm not going to help them out. I don't know. But my question is, based on those three passers, I think the question of the world right now is, which guy would you rather have? Myles Garrett, Joey Bosa, or Maxx Crosby? I think Joey Bosa, if you're going to look at those three, you throw him out. He's not the same impact as those other two guys. But it's cool to see it would be pretty dope. I'm not going to lie to you, to see the Bosa brothers line up. If you're at training camp, you're at a game, and you see the Bosa brothers lining up on other ends of the ball, it would be actually pretty cool, right? That's cool. But to me, that's number 3 in those pass rushers, in the hypotheticals, right? I'd probably put him at number 3 because he's just older. He's not as explosive as those two guys, and his contract is so much. And for his age, it's just, to me, it's not worth it. So that's where I'd put him, number 3. But at the same time, you could probably get him for less than you would have to give up for Maxx Crosby and Myles Garrett. He seems a little bit more attainable to me because of his age and where he's at this point in his career. Number 2 for me, I'd probably say Maxx Crosby. I think he's amazing. He's great. But personally, I think Myles Garrett is the best out of those 3. He's a former defensive player of the year. I think he's the best defensive player in the NFL. Arguably, you can say it's TJ Watt, and I would not hate your opinion for that. But, Myles Garrett, man, he is a wrecking ball. He's a monster. I think he's the top dog in those 3. And if I had to take any one of those 3, I'd want Myles Garrett on the team. You put Bosa and Myles Garrett together, oh, man. Whoo! That's, to me, is the pecking order. I think it's Myles Garrett, Maxx Crosby, Joey Bosa. I don't know. What do you guys think? You got Maxx Crosby over Myles Garrett? I don't hate it. I think you can argue that. But I got, again, my opinion, Myles, Max, Joey. What you got? Garrett, Crosby, Bosa, says Christine. Chris Teal says Trey Hendrickson, and he would be cheaper. Yeah, he's definitely an option. I don't mind Trey Hendrickson. He is definitely a sleeper candidate based on those guys because he doesn't have the name recognition as those other 3, but Trey Hendrickson's a fantastic player. So Retro Gamer says, I would rather the Niners try to get Max or Myles. Yeah, I think those are the 2 that everybody want, right? Let's see. Sahaj, any update on Deebo? There's no updates on Deebo at the moment. Ryan says Myles, Max, Hendrickson, Bosa. Okay, so he went one further, and he put it as Myles Garrett, Maxx Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, and then Joey Bosa, number 4. So let's see. Justin says Deebo is fat. He wants out, and nothing will happen until March. Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen with Deebo until maybe free agency, maybe the draft in April. I think closer to April as teams are looking to trade and move around the draft board. And if they don't trade them, it's going to be till June 1st where they can waive them and cut them on the post-June 1st designation like they did with Armstead last year. I really think if they can't move them between March and April, Deebo is going to be stuck here till June. So we'll see. Luis says we should go after Asante Samuel Jr. Oh, I would like that. It's a good move. It's a guy I wish the 49ers would have drafted a few years back when he came out of college. So out of was it Florida State, I would have loved to have him. Had him. I think the Niners passed on him, and I believe the Chargers drafted him. He's a good cornerback. He'd be a great nickel cornerback. Renardo Green, Diamond Lenore, Sante Samuel. That'd be fantastic, actually. MSQ says the offseason blueprint to rebuild the offensive line: sign Dahlman, draft Kelvin Banks, and draft Jackson Slater, interior offensive lineman from Sac State. That's a good plan. They can go get Dahlman from the Falcons. And that's a premium center. Boom, you upgrade it. You go get Kelvin Banks at 11 if he's available. You got your future franchise tackle. You can move him to left next year after a year at right tackle, and then you can have McKivitz or Moore as your swing tackle, which I think they're suited better to be depth pieces. Although Jalen Moore played really good last year in relief of Trent Williams, I feel like he could probably play right tackle down the line. So they definitely do need to reload that offensive line. No matter what they do this offseason, to me, that is the major focus point, because we saw the Super Bowl, man. And that Eagles O-line is insane. If 49ers want to beat them next year, because chances are you're going to be playing the Eagles in a playoff game, most likely, if you want to get through to the Super Bowl, you got to be able to stop them. And if you can't get past that O-line, you're not going to be able to beat them. So definitely got to upgrade that O-line, man. That Eagles offense is a prime example of what you need to be able to do in the NFL now. And it's a copycat league, right? Everybody's going to be copying the Eagles blueprint. So it's going to be interesting next year. You got Washington, who I think will be even better next year. You're going to have Jaden Daniels in year 2. The Lions, although they lost a lot of coaches, I still think they'll be good because they have so much talent. Like that roster is just insane. And they're going to get a lot of players back that were injured this year. So I think they'll still be pretty good. I would say the Packers are still going to be good. I know people clown on Jordan Love, but it's still a good team. They'll probably win a lot of games. They had a great defense. I think that's a team that'll make some noise. I can't see the Rams falling apart. They got a good team as long as Matt Stafford's healthy, unless they get rid of Stafford and shock the world and get another quarterback. Who knows? But McVay knows how to maneuver and make a team and win. That was a team that was left for dead, and then they won the division. So you can't count out the Rams. I think those are the teams the Niners really have to worry about next year if they want a chance to get it back. But regardless, I think you're right. Fix that D-line. Fix that O-line. Go get me a guy like Myles Garrett. Game changer. Whew, would be insane. Larry Krueger gave a lot of praise towards Jackson Slater. Yeah, anytime I talk to him, because after the streams on Tuesdays, we always talk for a little bit, and he'll just sit there and list off candidate like prospects and this and that. He loves Jackson Slater. So I could definitely see him being a guy that Niners could add to this roster to, bolster that O-line. Now, they got to hit like they did last year with Dominic Pooney. If you guys saw, Dominic Pooney was rated the 100th best player in the league, according to PFF. He was the highest rated offensive lineman out of all the rookies, all the rookie offensive linemen. So it's pretty good. We all know Pooney had a great year, but when you put things in perspective and you realize he's probably one of the top 100 players in the NFL, it's pretty cool, right? It's like, damn, okay, this guy was a third-round pick. Nobody really knew much out of him. Guy from Kansas, and he became a absolute gem for the 49ers. So it's pretty cool to see him, really succeed, and there's a lot of expectations for him now moving forward. But he was definitely a top-tier guy. I think if they can hit and get guys like that with that impact in the O-line, Niners are going to be cooking. So that's what they need. I mean, this guy was tremendous last year as a rookie. He's only going to get better, right? You can only imagine him getting better. I would hate to see him go the opposite way, but I think Dominic Pooney will continue to rise. He's a heck of a rookie. So good for him. Bring back Dee Ford. Said no one ever. Oh, man. We need another wide receiver after Deebo. I'm pretty sure they're going to get a wide receiver somehow, some way. It's not going to be T. Higgins. The Bengals are likely to give him the franchise tag. His price was expensive, right? He was going to cost at least $30 million, but the Bengals plan on giving T. Higgins the franchise tag and then figuring out a long-term extension. So I don't think the Niners are going to be able to get T. Higgins unless there's a swerve and it doesn't happen where he signs the, contract, the franchise tag. So we'll see. But I definitely think that was one of the guys that a lot of people were rumor towards the, maybe the Niners go get T. Higgins. It's just not going to happen now, especially with him most likely being franchise tag. So you got to move on from that option. Obviously, you have Ricky Pearsall, who ESPN and a lot of other, people are predicting to have a really big second year in the NFL. I think it makes sense, right? He didn't really play last year because of the adversity. He got shot. Took him so many months to, so many weeks to recover, which when he finally did, it was very emotional. It was amazing to see him actually play a game. But now he's going to have a full off season where he doesn't have, hopefully, any injuries. He did have some coming into training camp as well, but a fully healthy off season for him to be integrated to this team. I think the sky's the limit, but you still need a receiver because you're only a second-year player. You can't expect the world just yet. You got to see what else you can get out there. You need a veteran. Brandon Ayuk coming off a massive injury. Obviously, we don't know when he's coming back. We saw his vlogs this weekend on YouTube. Looks like he's doing okay. Looks like, he's having a crazy offseason. He got pulled over, and the cop thought he stole a Jeep Grand Cherokee. But he avoided a bullet with that one, and looks like BA's in good spirits. But he's, long from recovered from the torn ACL, MCL, meniscus. So they still need a wide receiver. We don't know what Jacob Cowing's going to give this team. And, even if he's good, they still need depth. You got Juwan Jennings, who's a dog. But if he starts getting press man cover from a top flight cornerbacks in the league, the number ones, double team, we haven't seen that for Juwan Jennings. We haven't really seen him have to go up against true number one cornerbacks. And if that's the case, who knows how he's going to respond to it. I still think he could do well, but you do need another wide receiver on this roster. So I agree with you, especially once they get rid of Deebo. You need to replace that. Although it wasn't a lot of production last year, you still need to replace Deebo Samuel. Although you still got George Kittle too, but regardless, Brandon Ayuk won't be there for a while. You might not have Deebo, so those are two wide receivers. You got to at least replace some of that production. So they need to upgrade on all sides of the ball. I agree. OBJ, I don't think he has much juice left in those legs. Are we keeping Moody? Says Renee. Haven't heard anything lately. I think they are. I made this prediction a few weeks ago. I think they're going to keep Moody. I think they're going to bring in a veteran kicker and make him compete. I think that's what they're going to do, but I could be wrong. I know I think we're going to get a lot of answers in the next couple of weeks once the combine comes. I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan will be able to meet with the media and explain a lot of those questions to us. I hope they do. I hope they answer them. Sometimes they just leave us guessing and they don't, and they take the more passive route and they don't answer those things. But I think once the, combine comes and the media asks them questions, I think they'll be able to answer. I really do. I hope they don't sit there and make us wait and guess, because I hate these hypotheticals sometimes too much, so we'll see how it goes. Jacob Cowing is our new wide back, says Luis. I could, if he can add a little bit of muscle, because that's the tough part about being the wide back role. Deebo, he definitely was a thick guy, and he was a big guy, a strong guy, and he had defenders jumping off of him, and he can rip through tackles. Same thing, George Kittle. He's a guy that it's hard to take him down. He has to be able to have that yak ability. Guys like George Kittle, guys like Deebo Samuel, they're just built like a truck, and defenders have a hard time tackling them. So if Jacob Cowing can add a little bit of muscle there, I think he could be that wide back role. I think they'll be able to throw it to him. I think they'll be able to give him the slants, maybe some jet sweeps, but I don't know if they can just throw him directly over the middle, because Deebo did that, and he took a beating doing that stuff. So I do think they can get another guy to be that wide back role. I don't know if it's going to be Jacob Cowing, but I hope, they do feature Cowing a lot on this offense, because I feel like he has a lot of potential, just a lot of speed, and, he has the ability to kind of stretch the field, but they didn't utilize him a lot last year. He also played a lot of special teams. So I don't know, maybe year 2 for Jacob Cowing will be a really big improvement for him moving forward. So we'll see. I think Garendo will be a better wide back. Used to be a wide receiver. Leon Sandcastle says, yeah, that's a guy that many people have mentioned too, having Isaac Garendo being that wide back guy. He's done, receiving ability. He showcased receiving abilities. I think the only thing with Isaac Garendo is, can he handle a role like that? Because, last year they had to throw him into being a starter, and, he kind of broke down a little bit because he never really has had that much, carries or responsibility. And he's relatively still very young at the position at running back. So throwing too much in his plate, could get him to be injured. That wide back position's tough. No matter who it is, it's a very risky position because you're having to do a lot of, heavy lifting, in terms of being the guy that can go over the middle, catch these screens and take direct hits. And then being a running back, you take boom hits right off the line of scrimmage immediately. And, you're adding that with having to catch and try to break tackles. It adds a lot to the play. I think that's one reason why Deebo did kind of fall apart. Being a wide back was not easy, and they used him as the most versatile player right out there, right? He had to do everything. He had to put, he had to be a receiver. He had to line up in the slot. He had to do motion. He had to run sometimes right up the gut. He had to do everything. And I think Deebo took a beating on his body. And I think at the end of the day, you look back at Deebo, it's like, yeah, okay, he fell off. I know he didn't take care of himself. The injuries didn't help him in that case, but that's a tough role to be that wide back. So I think that's why it's imperative the Niners get rid of him. So I don't think we're going to get much out of Deebo Samuel moving forward. If you can get anything out of him, trade him. If not, cut him post June 1st designation and save your money, because Deebo at this point in his career, he's not going to give the 49ers a lot of juice. Now, maybe he goes to another team and rejuvenates himself and gets the energy, and he's like got a chip on his shoulder. He wants to prove himself. I think that's what Deebo needs. I think he needs to change of scenery, go somewhere else where he can say, all right, I'm the guy. Because it's not here with the Niners. I think the Niners, if they stick around with Deebo, if he doesn't get traded this offseason or he somehow manages to stay on the roster, which I don't think he will, but if there's that small percentage chance where he stays, I don't think they're getting much out of Deebo this year, unfortunately. And plus, I just don't think now his mindset is to be here with the Niners. You could tell, like, he's done. He's moved on. He wants a fresh start. I think the team is like, all right, we're done with Deebo. We need a fresh start. We need to, figure something else out. Go get a younger guy. I think that's where it's going to go. So we shall see. I hope there's some news updates this week because the offseason sucks when you don't have a lot to talk about. But in any case, again, there's a lot of rumors. We'll stay close to them. Whether they're, good enough to post or not, we'll determine. Sometimes last couple of days, I'm like, I really don't care about this. It's a rumor. Everybody's going to hype it up. And then when you post it, it's just like, oh, everybody's, excited. Oh, my God, Myles Garrett. And then in 6 months from now, he's not going to be on the Niners. And you're like, oh, man. It gives you, it gives you a little false hope. But it is fun. The offseason does get a little crazy with those hypotheticals. And people like to talk about hypotheticals and, fantasy booking, fantasy teams. And, oh, my God, what if the 49ers had, Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett on the same team? So it is fun to think about. But then it's a little depressing when it doesn't happen and you're like, oh, well, shit. And then down the line in the season, if your team's losing, like, oh, the Niners should have got Myles Garrett. See, I told you. That's how it goes. So, any case, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And, appreciate everything. Appreciate the support. We'll be live when we can. And a couple last questions. Let's see. The switch up on Deebo is crazy, says Ted Reed. I don't think so. I really don't think it's that crazy. Honestly, he kind of did it to himself. I know people loved him, but over the last couple of years, you could see the fans kind of turning on him because he had the offseason, he didn't play up to his contract, the injuries caught up to him. And at that point, I was still behind him. I was like, he had the injuries. The Niners dragged their feet with contracts sometimes, but this last year, you just tell. I feel like his attitude was a little different. It was just a little, I guess Diva-like. And he's getting paid a lot of money. If you're getting paid that much money, I think fans expect you to be, a big-time player. He just was disappeared in a lot of moments. Now, I know he was injured. Now, I know he had pneumonia. And like I said before, like, you have to remember the great times Deebo gave us because, he gave us some unbelievable years. 2021, he put that team on his back. He was great for a long time. But over the last years, you can kind of see it's gotten worse with the fans. The fans have kind of slowly turned on him over the last couple of years. So I don't see as a surprise that the Niner fans hate him at this point. I think they're done. They're pissed off at this point. They're like, okay, we supported you. Now you want to go. And that's what happens. When a player wants to get traded, fans hate that. Fans want to keep the guy, Fans don't want to see him go. And I feel like it's gotten to this point where, again, that's why Deebo needs a fresh start, because I think the fans don't appreciate Deebo. And I don't think Deebo appreciates the fans 100%. I think it's a mutual hatred at this point. Not everybody hates Deebo. I don't think Deebo hates everybody, but I just think that he sees all the comments, right? Oh, you're fat, you're lazy, you're this. I mean, Deebo sees that stuff. He sees it on my social media all the time. I'm sure he sees those posts all the time. He's liked a few of my posts talking about the trades and stuff. So I know he sees it, but at the same time, the fans see the tape. You see the film. The drop passes pissed everybody off because that week where he, talked about, I'm not struggling. I need the ball. I need the ball in my hands. I need the ball. Oh my God, give me the ball. And then what they do, they force fed him the ball, and he had one of his worst games of his career. So it goes both ways. My man Justin says cheeseburgers and cheesecake puts people in a bad mood. Just watch Supersize Me. You said it. I think Justin also said, he asked the question, what is the cap hit? I think the Niners could save like 15K if they do the post June 1st designation, right? You cut them, designate them post June 1st. They're going to save a lot of money on the books if they can do that. And I think that's what the 49ers are looking at is, hey, we have to pay Kittle. We have to pay, Brock Purdy his money. We need to find a way to get rid of some of this money that's tied up to us, right? Hargrave is a guy that they're going to do. They did this last year with Armstead. They said, hey, we're going to cut your contract, your salary. Armstead didn't like that. So what they do said, okay, we're going to cut you. You go find a team that'll willing to pay you that much money. And he did. He found the Jaguars. They threw him $17 million. The Niners were not going to pay Armstead $17 million. And that's what I think they're doing with Deebo. They probably told him, hey, look, we don't want to pay you this much money, but if you find a team, go for it. Let's go. I think that's where we're at this point. But anyways, you guys have a blessed rest of your day. Go Niners. Peace.